guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today's going to be a retouching tutorial on how to make highlights pop in your images. So this is mainly by using the dodge and burn technique, which I've talked about a lot on my channel before. I've actually got a much more comprehensive tutorial on dodging and burning itself, so I'll link that down below in the description box if you guys want to go and check that out. But this is going to be mainly using dodging and burn today to bring out the highlights in the skin tones, and also just by using another little technique that I like to create a little bit more depth with the skin tone. Before we get into the video today, I'd really love to thank our sponsors for this video, and that is .space domains. So I have recently moved to a .space domain with a lot of my links in the description, and you guys can go and check them out there. The .space domain extension gives you an exclusive space in a very crowded online internet community to openly express your creative genius. Some of the really great benefits of .space are it highlights your unique space on the internet, it gives you a relevant and unique domain name, and it's likely that your primary choice of the domain name will be available on .space. The domain extension is great for creatives and freelancers alike, and really stands out for the people in those creative fields such as photographers, designers, content creators, etc. A .space domain name can help you build an amazing online brand by making it stand out from competitors. So to get your own .space domain, just visit get.space online. I know that this is something that you guys are quite consistently asking me, is how to bring the highlights out on the skin tone, and there's a very simple way to do this using dodge and burn. So I'm going to just zoom in now, and we're going to look at the model's skin, and we can see that there's a really decent highlight there already. It's looking a little bit on the flatter side, so even though we've got the highlight there to work with, it could be pushed a little bit further and we could really bring it out even more. So the way that I like to do this is by using a little bit of local dodging and burning and global dodging and burning. And local dodging and burning is where you're working quite close in, so when you're working with a small brush and very close in on the skin. Global dodging and burning is when you're a little bit further out and you're using a much bigger and softer brush to do a lot of the contouring of the model's skin tone and that sort of thing. So we're going to use a little bit of both today for this, and we're also going to use an adjustment layer first. So I'm actually going to talk about that right now, and we're going to go down to the adjustment panel just down here and click on the black and white adjustment layer. So we're going to create one of these, and I'm going to show you how this will give the skin tone more depth and really help those highlights pop. So first off, I'm going to set the blending mode of this layer to luminosity down the bottom. And then we're going to work with the reds and the yellows in this layer. So that is where most of the coloring is in the skin tone. It will be within the reds and the yellows. So by dragging these sliders just down a little bit, just the reds and then the yellows as well, more so the reds for this image, you can see how it's really giving a little bit more depth to the skin tone, bringing back a little bit of texture, and also making the highlight pop a little bit more. So we don't want to go too overboard with this particular layer, but I'm going to click that layer on and off so you can see what a difference that's made with the highlights. I'm even going to just zoom in here. So by clicking that on and off, you can see it really helps make this area a little bit more highlighted. So I'm going to zoom out again. And this time we're going to bring up our dodging and burning layers. So usually by doing this, I would just go down to the adjustment layers again here, and then go up to curves. Now this will be our dodging layer. So we really want to bring this bar up high because this is going to be where we apply a lot of the lightness to the skin tone. So just by dragging that bar up, we will then hold down Control and I on the keyboard, and that will invert the layer. So this allows us to basically paint onto the image. So I'm going to rename this layer dodge, and then I'm going to create the exact same layer again using a curves adjustment layer, but this time I'm going to bring the bar down, and this is going to be our darker layer. This is going to be the burn layer. So holding down Control and I on the keyboard again, I'm going to rename this one burn. So going to our dodge layer now, this is going to be the most important layer in terms of bringing out highlights more. We're going to start with a bit of local dodging. So I'm going to zoom in right to this highlighted area. I'm going to grab the paintbrush from the left-hand side here, and we're going to make it quite small. So you can see I've got about 25 pixels. I'm actually going to move the hardness down on this as well. We want it pretty soft, so around say 30%. And then the flow we want to have at maybe around 2 or 3%. And then I'm just going to start painting, making sure that we've got white selected as well as the color, so we can paint on as a mask. I'm just going to start painting onto the skin tone. And we're going to fill in any unevenness around the highlight or on the highlight. So we're just effectively smoothing this over and making it a little bit brighter. And we just want to make sure that that's looking pretty even around that area. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit and show you guys what that's actually done. And I'm going to turn on that layer on and off. So we've kind of given it a little bit more of a softer effect. We've filled in any unevenness. And then this time, we're going to do a bit of global dodging and burning. So we're going to keep the brush and go up to the sizing. This time we're going to bring the hardness up to around 80%. And the size of the brush can be lifted to around probably, I'd say around, for this image, probably about 275. And the flow we can up to about, say, between 10 and 15%. And now I'm going to just slightly swipe over some of the highlights on the image. And just kind of bring them out a little bit more. And it's really, really important to be quite light-handed when you're doing this, because it can start to look strange after a while. So I think that's pretty good. So zooming out, so I'm going to just turn off the dodge layer for a second, and you can see that we're really starting to bring out the highlights a little bit more there. One thing I'm going to do before we finish up though, I'm going to zoom back in, and this time we're going to go to the burn layer. And we're going to go over to the brush again, and then make sure that we're making the brush size a little bit smaller this time. I like to keep it with still a fairly hard edge. And then we're going to bring the flow back down to around 3%. And this is where I kind of like to just sharpen up the highlight a little bit, because we've sort of removed a lot of the unevenness. I'm just going over some of the brighter areas just to kind of blend them a little bit more and give it a little bit more of a sharper edge. You don't want to give it too sharp of an edge because it can start to look a little bit 2D, but just enough so it's giving us a crisp kind of highlight. I'm just filling in any unevenness with the burn tool in the darker areas over here as well. So once you've kind of brought the highlight in a little bit, we can zoom out again, and then turning on and off that, you can see it's just kind of narrowed down the highlight a little bit more and given it a little bit more of a defined edge. When I'm also using the burn tool, I like to just kind of darken up some of the pores a little bit, just to bring a little bit of that texture back so we haven't made it too soft initially with the dodge tool. But overall, I think that's looking pretty good. So zooming out, I'll just do a quick before and after. So this is the before, and that is the after. So we've really made the highlights pop even more just by using a bit of dodge and burn. And I like to do this in a really natural fashion so it doesn't take away from the skin tone or anything like that. It doesn't look too obvious. So you can do this as heavy or as soft as you like. I do tend to prefer to stick to the more natural effect though with it. So guys, I hope you really enjoyed this tutorial and you learned something new. If you haven't seen my other dodge and burn tutorial, I highly recommend checking that out before maybe going and attempting something like this. But I hope you guys have learned something today, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below. And if you have any requests for future videos, please let me know as well. Thanks again for watching guys, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!